Mom's last days would turn out to be an experience to remember. I could write a novel about it, but I have selected just a few highlights for now. On Saturday, I got a strong sense that my sister, who was out of state, should come sooner than her scheduled Wednesday arrival. She had been here previous week, but Mom's body was declining fast. My brother had done an amazing job caring for our now 94-year-old mother as we recently began rotating shifts each day to care for her. My wife and I now began spending the night to give him a well-deserved break as he was dealing with some health challenges of his own. Thankfully, my sister and her husband were able to arrive on Sunday night, and they stayed at the house with her. Leading up to Monday, Mom was sore, frustrated, and out of breath. Just weeks before, she was on her own and feeling great, but she had fallen, and now it was taking a toll on her. All the pain and the discomfort were wearing her body and her emotions. Us siblings were working our hardest to care for Mom, bumping heads occasionally as we were overtired. We were challenged with many decisions, and of course struggling to change Mom's soiled pants against her will. If that wasn't enough, we were hit with a 32-hour power outage on the night my sister arrived. Mom and Dad had been married 65 years, and when Dad went to heaven 9 years ago in the middle of a Thanksgiving day, Mom had been independent since, and she was not enjoying any part of us having to do everything she was used to doing. It was hard to see her struggle and tell us repeatedly, "I don't want to leave you kids." Although Mom's mind was still sharp, her body had become weak, uncomfortable, miserable. Her heart was failing, she was struggling to breathe, and she was refusing or unable to take many meds. But then came Tuesday, and what a day it would be. As we were on our way to Mom's that morning, I received a text from my sister. It described an incredible change in Mom on this day. She wrote, "Mom hasn't stopped talking all morning. She's sitting up, laughing, seeing people and animals," and her text went on with all these other descriptions of what was happening. My wife and I looked at each other in unbelief. Well, we couldn't get there fast enough, and when we arrived, little did we know, we were about to walk into a room where a heavenly party had already begun. I felt like I was late because so many people had already arrived before me. Aside from the unknown amount of angels who were in the room, they were allowing Mom to see her grandkids, her great-grandkids, plain as day, who were not in the room. She would talk with us and then turn to them and carry on a conversation. This would end up continuing all day. We got to experience Mom escaping from her physical pain into this heavenly realm and pouring her soul into all of these family members. Throughout the day, she would spot these angels and say, "Who is that over there?" And one time, "Who are those two ladies on my couch?" In the afternoon, as my daughter and I were sitting with her, she said she had talked with Dad earlier that day and that Dad was coming tonight. I said, "He's coming tonight?" She looked up with wide open eyes and said, "Oh, yes." She was so excited. My daughter and I were silent, and then she said, "Well, I think it's tonight, but it could be later too." We were a bit relieved. There were many more sightings and visions she experienced and described. All carried meaning from her life, but only some we were able to translate and understand. That night, as she grew tired and everybody had left, my wife and sis needed to change her. She was so mad she kept saying, "You cannot do this in front of all this company." She was still enjoying the visitors around her bed, but it had to be done, and I knew the angels would understand. Afterwards, she forgave us and her smile resumed. The day was overwhelming but amazing. How the experience touched each of us may have varied, but it definitely left an impression we would never forget. I've only seen angels in a physical form once in my life so far, but I know the unseen angels are constantly around and at work. Sometimes we are aware of it, but many times we aren't. Even though being used to the supernatural, this was still a next level experience for me. Now, about the music. Mom had described hearing music playing in the room on the radio. This had started 3 days before. It was an old song called "Only You" and one of Mom and Dad's love songs. "They are playing our song," she would say. "There's a man's voice singing it," she said. From Saturday till Tuesday, she would say, "Could you turn the music down just for a little bit? I like it, but it's just constantly playing." "Maybe call Brad," she said a few times. "He may know how to turn it down." I guess in her mind, this grandson had the best chance of adjusting the dial. Later that afternoon, as she was asking again about turning the music down, I was about to tell her, "Mom, it will stop soon." At that moment, the Lord reminded me that when the music stops, she will be with Dad and not with us. So I paused and realized that God was the only one that could adjust the music, and he was in control. Mom kept saying during the day, "Thanks for everything." And I would try to respond back with, "Thank you for everything." But it was so hard to get those words to come out because I would think of the depth of that word everything and all the things she had done for me and for the family. I couldn't comprehend what that even included beyond what I would experience when I was with her. From bringing me into this world until now, 58 years of everything, unselfish giving, her labor of love each day. She prayed for her kids every day, so in my case, this meant over 21,290 prayers. I'm sure this is why my brother, my sister, and I are healthy and alive today, especially my brother. For my sis, and I won't say her age, over 25,915 prayers, and for my brother, over 25,185. And if you know my brother, you would say double that one because I'm sure she had to pray for him twice a day. For the rest of the family, the moment that each of you entered her life until now, you could add up your number because you became part of her prayers. I must say, I'm a bit afraid to lose this covering of prayer, but am hopeful it will still shower down from above. It's been a blessing to all who have shared in the life of this amazing mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and friend. She valued her friends and her family like no other. That Tuesday reminded me of a quote that a friend shared with me. "Live for the moment you can't put into words." We honestly thought she wouldn't wake up the next day because she had poured out so much, and she did mention that Dad was coming, but we were blessed with a few more days. She slept most of Wednesday, and on Thursday there were 3 more grandkids flying into town, 2 of which were doctors and were very instrumental in helping with Mom's comfort level in these last days. We were so glad that they made it in time, and she somehow found the strength to open her eyes and converse with each of them. It was special. During my Friday visit, she slept most of the day. In the afternoon, when she briefly woke up, I leaned in to say hello and kiss her cheek. She looked up and said, "I saw Roy and Ava." I was in shock. This was the elderly couple that lived next door to us 46 years ago, and they were the ones who invited our family to church. Their influence would impact us forever. This was also the church where I met my wife and so many others who we still enjoy time with today. Well, I told Mom, "Tell them hi for me the next time you see them," and although I'm not in a hurry to get there, I also cannot wait to wrap my arms around these amazing people. It was hard to contain so many amazing occurrences in such few days, and I would be awake for hours at night to try to write them all down. On Saturday, Mom mostly slept again, and during these couple days she kept reminding us that she was ready to go. It was interesting that from Wednesday on, the music that Mom had previously experienced had stopped playing, and she seemed to know that she was on borrowed time and that Dad was patiently waiting for her. I'll tell you what I believe happened on that Tuesday evening when Mom went to bed. I believe that Dad did come, and they sat down together, maybe had a cup of coffee, and they had a little chat. Mom asked for a few more days with the family. Dad's selfish side would want to say, "Please come now and be with me." But Dad was unselfish like Mom and was happy to give her that time. Mom then said, "Thank you, my love, and one last thing. Could you please give me those few days without the music?" Dad smiled and agreed. These were amazing days that God gifted us with, and just a small glimpse of the eternal making its way into Mom's cozy living room. The last of my 5 kids got to see Mom on Sunday. We had a long drive that morning to pick him up, and when we got there, we were glad that she was able to hold his hand and whisper, "I love you." Mom had now fulfilled the last of her visits. We thought again this would be the last evening with us. Nope. Monday, she rested all day, and during the afternoon visit, I got to hold her hand alongside of Brad, my oldest son. Tuesday, to our surprise, her eyes could still open slightly, and her lips could make the movement of "I love you." In 2 more days, it would be Thanksgiving, and Dad must have told her to stay with us through then because their grand reunion was on Friday in the early afternoon. Seems appropriate they would both choose this season because of how thankful they were for each other and for their family. There were many more miraculous events and stories, but one thing for sure is Mom's legacy will continue to live on as we share and influence others in the powerful way she has influenced us. Mom, thank you for everything.